Would we ever see a Ndebele president in Zimbabwe? The answer was a resounding no. And I asked the question, is it about the lack of qualities of the Ndebele-speaking people, or is it simply the Ndebele? Negative ethnicity has no place anymore on this continent. And may I add to that, neither do xenophobic attitudes prevalent in South Africa. By the way, whenever I speak in South Africa, I make sure I'm close to the exit door, just in case. What is the way forward? The way forward is simply this. If we face all our strongholds head on, there will be nothing holding us back anymore. Any of these strongholds that we're highlighting, they need to be faced head on. So nothing else can stand in our way. And the first place where we're going to need that is to start to groom leaders, value-based leaders, who will face these hardships head on. Because people follow leaders and not the other way round. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sam Ndonga. Thank you for that presentation. Very quickly, we'll go to our next speaker. Please, our speakers, when you're speaking, be looking sideways so that when you see me walk up, you know that it's time to round off. All the same, we have 15 minutes. Each speaker has been given 15 minutes by the convener. So please, let's stick to that. The next is Mr. Ignacio Orbe. It's like I have to enroll in Spanish language pronunciation. Okay, you're welcome, sir. Your hands together for him.
Thank you very much. EBR members, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. Really, it's a privilege for me to have the opportunity to be here with you again. I have a double problem with English. The first is it's not my language, and the second is I normally speak very, very fast, in Spanish also, and in English, of course. Okay. Some weeks ago, I received an invitation from GBR for this conference, and I received only an email saying that I will talk about global wealth versus global poverty. And the first question that I did to myself is, what is GBR expecting from me? They are expecting to receive a picture of the current situation? I don't think so. They are expecting to receive from me solutions? Probably yes. I am the person to supply solutions for a general problem in the continent. I have doubts, but I will try. I will try. Okay, the first idea is development. That means quality of life. And poverty, that means not exclusion. In the last 20 years, I travel a lot, and I live in some countries in Latin America and in Africa. And this is two of the regions in the world with more socioeconomic problems about poverty and about exclusion. And of course, it's our responsibility to try to change the things. This is the picture about the current situation in Africa. The non-official economy in Africa represents the 42% of the GOP. In Switzerland is 4%. The intracontinental business from Africa to Africa represents the 11% of the GOP. It's the 87% in the European Union, and it's 90% in USA. The capital flight from Africa represents more or less the 15% of the GOP. But if you compare the possibilities that this continent has, if you compare with others, only one thing. After 5 years of recession in my country in Spain, is an explosion of everything, because we are very happy because Spain will grow in a 1% this year. Some countries in Africa are growing a level of 8, 9, 10% per year. The future is here, it's not in Europe. When I thought about this presentation, I decided to focus only in the basement of the society, children and mothers. We can talk about other things, but I am focusing that in these two critical parts of the society. And I divide the life stages. Birth is minus 9 months to the birth. Infants, first education, secondary education, and adults. This is the pyramid of the society. And you can see the yellow part is the basement, is the foundation. Without children, we have nothing. And of course, we need to protect also the mothers. Is the critical part of the society, and especially in Africa. How we can protect mothers and nurslings? Of course, from health policies, from the governments, but also we can protect from our side. It's our responsibility. We are part of the society, don't forget. We are not alone. It's not only responsibility for governments, it's a responsibility for everybody and everywhere. The civil society has NGOs and associations, businessmen, religious groups, and workers' unions. Where are you? Think about it. How we can participate in this process to protect, increasing our networking, knowing our capacities. This is the second year that I visit this conference, and I have some contacts. But in the end of the day, I know the capacities of the 2% of the GBR members. We need to increase the networking. We need to talk about how we can collaborate. Working directly with manufacturers, this is, I am nothing against the traders companies, but this continent has a lot of intermediates doing business. And of course, investing a part of our profit in GBR and GFC projects. Fields where we can do. Of course, water is critical. It's always necessary for the life. Access to drinking water must be available for all the humans. Untreated water is the case of illness, and water transportation is one of the main activities for women in Africa. Some ideas, this is some projects that we are doing in Africa and in other countries. You have some examples, mobile plants and long-term plants. No? Other critical thing is housing. Housing is the nucleus of the family. With a good house, it's very difficult to live. Okay, represents stability and represents quality of life. Some fast and cheap solution for housing is technology, high technology, especially designed to provide fast and very cheap solution for housing. And of course, health. Health is the keystone of everything. No? Without health, life is not life. Some ideas, solutions from camp hospitals, mobile clinics, hospitals, centers, etc. An example, very cheap. And food. What about food? Food is critical in the first month of life and determines the rest of our life. An inadequate alimentation in the first months is critical and will determine illness in the future and problems and everything. We can create distribution and factories for milk, cereals, etc., with the best quality and with the best price. I repeat, health is the key of everything. Without health, life is not life. And food and health, of course, are related. In the presentation, I have some information about the projects that we can do. I repeat, we can start creating a net to distribute, or we can manufacture here in the continent with small factories. Okay? We need to protect mothers. 800,000 neonatal annual deaths. Infants between 0 and 27 days. This is unacceptable completely. About babies, we lost more than 3 million children per year in the world. I cannot understand. We're investing a lot of money for football players to go to the cinema for ridiculous things. And a lot of children are dying every day. Really, I cannot accept and I cannot understand. No. I need to back. We need to improve the child nutrition, and we can do together. Okay, more information about it. And finally, some ideas. We can use, I repeat, our networking to promote business, but business focusing in the critical part of the society, mothers and children, because they are the future. Without them, nothing is possible. Okay, finally, only remember that I made this presentation. I translate to French, Portuguese, and Spanish. If you want, you can get it in any of these 4 languages. And again, sorry for my English. I don't know if you understand well. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Mr. Orbe. We appreciate that. We'll take the very next speaker. Please be noting your questions. We'll have a session for taking care of the questions. He mentioned something key there, and that's about capital flight from Africa. I think until the issue of capital flight is dealt with, the issue of poverty may not be totally tackled in Africa. For every $1 of aid that comes into this continent, $10 goes out in capital flight. And that is something to give us food for thought. The next speaker is Pastor Emmanuel Ogbechie. You're welcome, sir.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank everyone for being here, especially the convener for the opportunity given to us to cross-pollinate. This afternoon, I would like to begin by emphasizing that the subject of poverty eradication lies primarily in the transference of what I call financial intelligence to the uneducated financially. Poverty exists where there is ignorance. Ignorance is actually the primary foundation for all forms of lack. And we really cannot talk about poverty eradication if we do not do something about financial education. Many of us go to school, we study different things to gain some level of education, but we do not actually invest the same amount of time to study the number one principle which actually governs wealth, which is the principle of money. And this afternoon, I would like to take the few minutes I have to confer some levels of knowledge. A couple of years ago, I began to actually see questions myself about the reasons why some people are poor and some people are rich. And I found out that most of us have never been taught about the principles and the laws that governs money itself. And as a result of that, I began to teach on the subject of the physics of money. Many of us have had to study physics while we were in high school. And you know that physics is actually the study of nature. All forms of wealth exist by God's act of creation. They are all waiting to be discovered. There are laws that govern different spheres of life that are waiting to be discovered. And it will only take those who discover and identify these laws to be able to harness them. The subject of money itself, which is actually what creates the physical things we have, because money answers to physical things. Physical things answers to money. When you say somebody is poor, you are actually saying he doesn't have what it takes to get the physical things of this life. And when you look at that fact, you realize that why does he not have this this money or this means to get the physical things? It is because he doesn't understand that the factor or the object or the tool called money itself obeys the laws of nature. This is why I believe the foundation for all forms of transformation economically must begin with financial education. I would like to motivate everybody who is in a place of influence. If you would help to eradicate poverty, the first step to take is to transfer financial intelligence. People need to know exactly what money is. What is wealth? What is money? And how do you create the value? All of man's problems are caused by lack of knowledge. Global poverty exists where there is lack of knowledge about the dynamics of money. Financial intelligence is knowing about money and how to make it come to you abundantly. I would like to quickly define for us, we all know this, what is money? We've been taught in economics that money is the medium of exchange. It is a tool or physical object that does not belong to anyone. Right now, a couple of us have money in our different wallets, in our bank accounts, but the honest truth is that it does not belong to you. Money is a tool that belongs to no one. That tells me that the poor today can actually acquire money because money has nobody's name tag on it. Ecclesiastes chapter 10 verse 9 tells us that the feast is made for laughter and wine maketh merry, but money is the answer to all things. Money possesses characteristics which, when studied, one can actually acquire it in abundance. If we look at some of the characteristics of money, you're going to find out that money moves. Can everybody say that money moves? And it's very true. Money was designed to move. The money that is in your hands right now will likely move to the next person beside you. Now, this is one thing we have not been taught. But this is one thing the rich know that the poor do not know. The rich know that money moves and money possesses the characteristic of any object that moves, and as a result of that, they study the behavior of the movement of money, and as a result, they are able to make your money move to them in abundance. Money behaves like the wind. It cannot be restrained from motion. It is always moving, either away from you or towards you. It is always moving in a circuit. It does not move in the wild. And in studying the subject of poverty eradication, it is good for us to look at what Isaac Newton said about motion. Now, this is actually what led to the foundation of the study of the physics of money. Isaac Newton made a couple of laws which he discovered about nature, one of which is the fact that every object remains in a state of rest or uniform motion except acted upon by an external force. In other words, the money that is not in your hands will remain outside of your hands except you exert some legal force to move it into your hands.